Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're unpacking the totally fascinating and sometimes surprisingly complex world of professional hospitality lighting. Specifically, we're getting into the strict standards laid out in ANSI/IES RP 9-20. But we're not just going to sit here and read a technical manual together. That would be incredibly boring. Instead, we're going to frame these hardcore engineering specs around something we've literally all experienced: the physical journey of pulling up and arriving at a hotel. We're going to uncover exactly how light is used to shape that entire experience well before you ever even step foot in the lobby.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for the journey. First, we'll look at the first impression, then designing the porte cochere, and navigating those tricky transition zones. After that, we'll hit the hard numbers with target illuminance and signage. And finally, we'll wrap the whole shebang up with technical specs and controls. Let's get right to it.
Starting off with Section 1, the first impression, and how lighting accents the architecture.
You see, the guest journey actually starts way before you roll down the window to hand your keys to the valet. It starts right out on the street. Lighting is absolutely the very first feature that guests notice at night. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why. The design here isn't just about, throwing some floodlights onto a sidewalk. The bright surface illumination on the architectural facade actually makes the building itself feel transparent and incredibly welcoming. It establishes a distinct nighttime identity, provides a really strong feeling of safety, and gives guests their very first glimpse of the hotel's true character.
The ANSI standard actually hits the nail on the head here, summarizing it beautifully. At night, it is largely based on the way exterior lighting accents the building. Before we even think about talking about lumens and wattages and all that, the standard focuses heavily on the why before the what. Exterior illumination is, for sure, an essential branding tool. It helps guests find the property when they're in a totally unfamiliar location, and it clearly communicates status, prestige, and security through strategic architectural accenting.
Moving right along to Section 2, designing the porte cochere, or arriving in style.
So moving off the street, we transition into the driveway and entrance area. In the industry, this is known as the porte cochere. Now, historically, lighting designers used to build excitement in this space by using exposed incandescent marquee lights, to create this highly coveted sparkle effect. It was kind of like arriving at a theater. But today's styles, they're trending heavily toward architectural integration. Designers absolutely still want that inviting sparkle, but they're achieving it in some completely new, very cool ways.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the striking contrast between the different modern approaches we're looking at. On one side, we've got clean, bright, indirect canopy illumination that provides just fantastic visibility for both guests and the hotel attendants. But then, contrast that with a much more theatrical approach using dynamic, colorful lighting to serve as that integrated sparkle. It's a totally different vibe. The standards dictate that if you're going to use color like this, designers really have to carefully calculate how it's going to alter the appearance of literally everything it touches.
Which brings us to Section 3, navigating transition zones and the science of eye adaptation.
All right, so you're out of the car and you're heading toward the lobby doors. This is where we introduce the real physiological challenges of lighting design. We aren't just lighting some static, empty box. We are lighting a pathway for the human eye, and eyes need time to physically adjust to changing light levels. The porte cochere acts as a vital transition zone to step the lighting up or down, ensuring our eyes adapt smoothly. This is absolutely crucial for visual comfort and, of course, for spotting potential hazards like steps or curbs.
Looking at this gorgeous entryway, we can see just how seamless this transition process can actually be. Now, the ANSI standard doesn't just, sort of suggest a smooth transition, it mandates specific ratios for it. To get that proper eye adaptation, the standard recommends a luminance ratio of between 3:1 and 5:1 for the entrance as it moves into the directly adjacent interior areas. It's a super delicate balance, really, relying on both natural daylight control and artificial lighting working together in perfect harmony.
Let's get into Section 4, target illuminance and signage, where we break it down by the numbers.
So the crucial point is that we're now shifting gears from the experiential design to the strict, hard engineering targets, starting with this massive number right here, 100. When guests are trying to navigate unfamiliar entryways, directional signage is, without a doubt, absolutely critical. The standard dictates an ideal target of 100 lux, which is about 10-foot candles, of maintained vertical illuminance specifically for signage. This makes sure the text just pops right out against the background.
But let's contrast that intense 100 lux vertical requirement with the floor.
For the horizontal surface, meaning the actual floor itself, the standard requires a maintained minimum illuminance level of just 10 lux, or roughly 1 foot candle, to ensure safe passage. Plus, there is a maximum to minimum uniformity ratio of 10:1 for these specific areas. Basically, what this all means is you want a nice, clear, bright sign directing the guest with enough consistent even light on the floor so they don't trip, but without just blasting the entire corridor with totally unnecessary, blinding light.
And these target numbers actually scale, depending on exactly what part of the property we're looking at. If you look at this simplified adaptation of Table A1, you can see how different exterior spaces require scaled illuminance based purely on their activity level. So a high-activity pool deck, that might demand 30 lux, but a low-activity chill lounge space drops all the way down to a super moody 4 lux.
Now, you probably noticed a recurring number in that last table's measurement column, 1.52. This is an incredibly important metric for lighting engineers. 1.52 meters, which is roughly 5 feet, is the standard height above the finished floor where these vertical target measurements are actually taken. It perfectly represents the typical eye level or task surface height for an average standing adult, so it ensures that the light is being measured exactly where the guest actually needs it most.
All right, final stretch. Section 5, Technical Specs and Controls, the engineering baseline.
Let's move to see how this builds up the underlying technology that ties this entire system together. We've safely guided our guest all the way into the lobby, but the standards go way beyond just brightness. First off, light sources need to have a minimum color rendering index, or CRI, of 90 or higher, with a high R9 value. That's what beautifully brings out the natural red tones in human skin, so people don't look totally washed out. Second, the system needs automated controls that shift the lighting levels to perfectly match natural day and night cycles. And finally, there are strict environmental rules through BUG ratings. That stands for backlight, uplight, and glare. Designers have to use fixtures with the right BUG ratings to limit light pollution, prevent blinding glare, and stop their light from trespassing onto the neighbor's properties.
And that brings us to the end of our journey today. As you can see, lighting a hospitality space isn't just about flipping a switch. It is a meticulously engineered psychological and physiological journey. It's really kind of amazing. So next time you pull up to a hotel, look up at the facade. Notice the sparkle of the portico chair and pay attention to how your own eyes adjust as you walk into the lobby. What exactly is the lighting telling you about the property before you even walk through the doors? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on the ANSI/IES RP920 standards. Keep learning, keep looking closely at the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.